Welcome to Friday 420 Live. I'm Michelle Nevada. Today, I am so excited to welcome my guest, cannabis pioneer, Farmer Tom Lauerman. Farmer Tom started one of the first medical cannabis co-ops in San Diego in 1997 and was involved in the very beginnings of medical cannabis in this country. In fact, the regulation that you helped bring about, Proposition 215, was part of the reason that I moved to California to learn how to legally grow. So Farmer Tom, so nice to have you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Great to have you here. So, um, you've affected a lot of people's lives throughout the years. Like I said, starting with me, one of the reasons I moved to California to learn how to grow legally was because people like you fought for our rights to do so. And so, I was wondering if you could kind of take us back to the early days, 1997, starting that first co-op, trying to get a medical cooperative off of the ground. Who were you working with, and how did all of this come about?
Well, let's go a little bit further back to the beginning of Prop 215. And it was about 30 years ago when we were, getting all of our friends together, petitioning, getting signatures to get Dennis Prome's vision of letting medical patients get relief from cannabis therapies. So our collective was with Steve McWilliams. So he came from a well-to-do family, and his parents pretty much funded his activism.
Mm.
And I was the grower. We had 20 patients. I kind of like to call it the Noah's Ark of cannabis collectives. We had AIDS patients, quadriplegics, senior citizens with glaucoma and arthritis, pain, you name it. We had the full gamut, and we were very active in the medical cannabis movement in San Diego. We would go to the town council meetings with our 4-inch cannabis plants and put them up there. And as the council people rolled their eyes, we'd tell them how safe cannabis was. And so that went on for a while. And
And
I
Dennis
would
Peron,
go.
Dennis Peron was up in San Francisco. Is that right? And
Yeah, and San Diego
you
wasn't
were
in the
you were in San Diego.
spotlight. San Diego
Yeah,
was at the opposite end of the state.
yeah,
And we weren't really in there, but every city had its own advocates out there fighting for it.
yeah.
So, and I just happened to be, I was born and raised in San Diego, and that's where everything started for me.
Mm.
As far as cannabis goes, I found it in my early teens. Um, and I bought my first Folger coffee can full of cannabis and rolled it all into joints, telling myself, wow, cannabis is hard to find. But if I learn how to roll joints and always carry a pack of zigzags with me, I'll always be in on that joint. So those were my early days. And then as I got into my teens and got in my car, we would go to Mount Helix, which was like a cannabis and drug market, basically, but cannabis market, whereas mainly cannabis and mushrooms. And pretty much that was the main thing that was going on up there. But it was the top of Mount Helix. There's a big amphitheater up there with the big cross, and it was all made out of rocks because San Diego's really rocky. And we could see when the cops came up, and my brother used to sit up on the top there and whistle to us when the cops were coming. And everybody had their rocks that they would remove from the rock walls, put their stash in there, and put it back in there, and just watch the cops go by. Now, it was big at sunset because you could see all the way to the ocean from there. So people would come up and enjoy the sunset. And then, you know, vendors, as you'd like to call them, would walk down car to car saying, I've got some purple bud, I've got Thai stick, I've got some green bud, I've got some nice Mexican.
And the first
Those,
dispensary was born.
yeah,
Up there on that
one
mountain.
of the first dispensaries was born, that's for sure. And then, I was a landscaper. I started landscaping when I was 12 years old. I worked for Dan Jennings and his landscape construction company in San Diego. And, through landscaping, I had compost and I had pots. And all this cannabis that we got from Mexico all had seeds. So I started filling the pots open with compost and dropping seeds in there, and that's how it all started for me. It wasn't dirt that we used. I learned from landscaping that, man, you grow way better quality everything with compost. So I was just throwing my seeds straight into compost and getting pretty good results.
Yeah, I bet.
9 times out of 10, it wouldn't make it. You know, uh, People in the neighborhood got wind, they would come and rip us off, or you know, it was
Yeah.
it was hit and go there for a long time. And then my growing became better and better, and through landscaping and my love for cannabis every year, giving it a go. We had this thriving collective, and we were right in the middle of the gay neighborhood in Hillcrest, right next to the oldest gay bar, the Brass Rail. And it was a gated off building. I just went there on my last trip to San Diego. I was staying at Michael Bartelmo, who's another legend out of San Diego, who's a quadriplegic, still is. He's been a quadriplegic for only 60 something years old. Happened at 17. He got into a car accident by himself and hit a tree. And so he's such an inspiration. But anyways, I was staying with him sleeping on the couch. I've done a lot of couch surfing over all these years. It's kind of still my MO. Um, so I walked over there and took some pictures and reminisced and saw Paula's, my wife's apartment over there, where we all had media lists back then. We learned from Brownie Mary when she got busted, and I think NBC was at her place when she got arrested, that once the media is there, everybody has to play by the rules. So, and then chances are, if you're high profile enough, uh, they're just going to play by the rules. They're just going to whisk you away and throw the key away. And, we had 448 plants. You got to remember, this is July 6th of 1999, and we've got solo cups across the parking lot of people giving us different varieties. We were doing pheno hunting back then, and we were doing some breeding, and we had 40 plants up in the grow room, and how we distributed it was like once a week the patients could come, and I would have all the plants hanging. We would give a brief description of what we best thought, what ailments and what it benefited and the benefits were of it. And we had plastic bags and Sharpies and scissors, and they would go up there and take what they wanted. It was honor system.
Like
And
hanging, like dry buds hanging,
yeah,
and they would
dry
just go
or
take.
wet buds, and it didn't matter. Whatever we had that week that was available for the patients, so they could go home and dry it themselves, or if it
Uh,
was dry,
oh,
we did our best to make sure patients got their therapeutics every week.
hmm,
So we went to the town council meetings, and then my dog Bonita snipped at somebody, and the guy complained, and the cops came, and then they decided they were going to arrest us. And we showed them, me and Steve sat in there with the bowl full of cannabis, smoking it as fast as we could because we knew we were going to jail. And we had all of our letter. We did everything right. At one point, the police told me, "Hey, look, you can go. We don't want you. We want Steve. Steve's the face out there. He's the one poking the bear all the day. He's the one smoking in public, blowing smoke on police, and all this stuff." We go, "We don't want you." But I'm going, "Look, if you railroad Steve, what about the other 20 patients like me? We fought hard to pass 215 and to normalize cannabis. We risked going to the town council meeting with Michael in his electric wheelchair, whirling down the road with the flexi wagon behind the back full of 4-inch pot plants and going up there." So they what happened that day is we all had media lists. We learned from Brownie Mary and my wife. It was pagers back there. She whipped out hers. She was the holistic health practitioner for our collective Shelter from the Storm, and paged them all. And within 5 or 10 minutes, they were all there. And this really pissed the cops off. And I saw the red van show up. So back in the day, when in San Diego County, when the red van showed up, you knew you were getting busted because that was a collection van. So it uh,
You were probably going in the
collected all
back.
the plants. Yeah, put all the numbers
Oh,
on
I got
it,
you.
so everything's ready when you go to court. So they hauled me and Steve off. We were right in the beginning of cable television news, where they were taking the highlights from the regular news and then running them every 15 minutes. For like the next 4 or 5 days, all you saw was me getting stuffed into the back of the police car, and the highlights of how we got arrested. So it was a highly publicized bust, and Normal jumped in and gave us free lawyers back then.
Mm.
And Stan Arky was our lawyer, and the day that the court trial was, we had another like rally in front of the courthouse where we had 50 people with signs, and my wife, and she was going to nursing school in her nursing outfit, and we all had pro cannabis, pro patient signs. And then right before we were going in, Stan comes out and says, "Look, they're not gonna press charges now, but if you guys mess up again, then they're going to come after you and come after you hard. And with those 448 plants, you're going to federal prison for a while."
Was this the
So
feds? Was these the feds that raided you, or were it local police?
now it was a local San Diego police
Okay.
department
Yeah,
that
because I know
raided
the
us.
Fed did start raiding in California at one point.
Oh yeah, they were more concerned with the larger operations in Northern California, Humboldt,
Yep.
and all those areas where they were doing flyovers and those types of things. And of course, we were less on the radar. They were more on the radar because they were out in front of it. The whole Dennis Prone and San
Yeah.
Francisco's right there, and Northern California really started this whole deal.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you had
So
patients around you, though. You had this kind of like, well, this is what we're actually doing. This value to the community. We're serving a value here. You have patients around you who are like, yeah, these guys are helping us. What are you doing? Why are you shutting our medicine down? But
right.
the farmers up north didn't have that. They were out there in fields growing big fields of weed, hoping to get it to people eventually, but they didn't have the patients gather around like saying, "What are you guys doing?" Right? So that back then, I imagine that's what largely what kept you guys out of jail at that point.
Yeah, well, just the fact that the media was there, my wife saved my life that day. And I mean, that's when I knew that this is the woman who needed to be by my side for the rest of my life. And, after 26 years, we're still together and going strong, living on our little homestead, here in
Yeah.
Brushbury, Washington.
Um, Tom, I wanted to ask you a bit more about the patients that you were working with back then, because I kind of want to understand and help others understand what has changed since then. So you said that you were working with, patients that had HIV. There was an HIV epidemic kind of at the tail end, I think, at that time. Um, and you were working with some, serious patients that had serious
Oh,
conditions.
yeah.
Um, what were some of the things that you saw? What were some of the conditions that you saw that were treated? That you saw people were helped by this plant.
Well, we saw the old ladies with their arthritis would get better, and Paula would be making tinctures and salves and stuff like that. So the topicals were working and the tinctures were working, and we saw quadriplegic Michael. He still uses cannabis every day in gummies and different types of medicated. Um, Therapeutics out there. And so we saw big time relief,
Yeah,
from a myriad of people, and with all different kinds of illnesses and severe life debilitating injuries and malformities.
yeah. I come from a medical background as well. I've been providing medical cannabis to people for 23 years. And like I said, I got my Proposition 215 um, authorization in 2002 in Humboldt County, learned how to grow there. So yeah, if it weren't for the advocacy of folks like you and Dennis Peron and Michael, you know, I don't know, we don't know where the industry would be right now, you know. But the thing that I'd like to talk about a bit now is kind of having an overview of where the industry, the medical cannabis industry started. Um, and you can safely say this was one of the first cooperatives that you ran in San Diego. It was one of the first cooperatives in this country, and very well might have been one of the first cooperatives in the world, medical cooperatives. Um, having done that, having come from that background, and knowing that medical cannabis is still just as important and relevant today as it was back then for people and people's lives, where do you see medical cannabis going? We've seen adult use state by state edge out medical cannabis and push out medical cannabis, shut down. You know, people can't afford to stay in business, or whatever reason they don't. You know, the medical cannabis goes by the wayside, and adult use takes over. Where do you see the future of medical cannabis lying?
Well, it's kind of in the same line with GW Pharmaceutical and the moves they made with Epidiolex. I've joined forces with and work with Irvine Labs, which is a Schedule One bulk manufacturer. They have a bulk manufacturing license. So that means we can grow, produce, research, study, uh, present products in front of the FDA for approval, all the way up to finished products. And I see the novel cannabis therapeutic industry as the wave of the future, especially with Schedule 3 looking like Trump's going to pull the trigger on it. Uh, we got to kind of rein in the pharmaceutical companies because they like to use synthetics.
Yeah.
But we know that plant medicine is where it's at. So at Irvine Labs, we're working to keep everything based on plant medicine.
Yeah, well, they
Um,
can't patent the cannabis plant, so all they can do is make the synthetic or you know, altered versions of something that is kind of in a lot of ways perfect in and of itself, right? I mean, of course, there's ways that we can perfect it, and isolate different compounds for this and that. Um, but yeah, I guess my question are is medical cannabis for me? I think medical cannabis is going to become something different than it is now. We're going to continue with adult use or recreational, but medical cannabis is going to. I think medical cannabis is going to bifurcate. It's going to turn into a pharmaceutical type industry, like you're saying, where we use isolated compounds. And it's also going to turn into a home grow where people are growing their own medicine. I mean, this is where medical cannabis came about thousands of years ago in Asia. People were growing this plant, cultivating this plant for fiber, but also for medicine. Those were the original home growers, and they were growing it for medicine. This plant has been cultivated for thousands of years for medicine. And I don't think that's ever going to go away. I think it's going to increase. I think people are going to start growing their own medicine more and more and more. I hope. It is challenging growing cannabis, but it's not impossible. And so I think I don't know if I'm not even asking you a question right now. I'm just kind of pointing out that I feel like this industry is gonna split. It's gonna turn into a pharmaceutical and then to
it's
people. You know.
Yeah, and it's going to move slowly as the government moves slowly, the FDA moves slowly. It's going to be single molecules, so everybody's out there thinking it's going to be the symphony effect or the entourage effect or full spectrum are horribly mistaken because the government has they don't work like that.
Mm.
Our plan at Irvine Labs is to start off with single molecule therapeutics, get them in, do the test trials. We've already got a few products in phase 2, get them out to the public, and then gradually work your way up. So maybe there's a CBD molecule, and then maybe we add a terpene to it, but it's going to take a while. So it's going to be single molecule for a single condition to start off with. That's the ground level, and that's the pace they move at. So it's going to take years
Yeah.
for them to get up to a full spectrum cannabis product, you know. And if you
Just for
think
them to
about
just
it,
to
they
understand. Sorry, yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
now, you know, if you look at it, there's millions of literally hundreds of millions of different compounds that you can come together. We have hundreds of cannabinoids. We've got, you know, 50, 60 terpenes, and I'm probably wrong at the numbers. And then we've got flavonoids and all these other components that go into creating cannabis. So if you start taking little bits of each one of these things, there's literally millions of therapeutics that can be developed for humans, and they'll
Mm,
have to get away from petrochemical based, you know, remedies or you know, pharmaceutical products,
mm,
and get in back to nature
mm,
and back to where it is. I mean, me and my wife, we live on our farm, and we do our best to take care of ourselves. We pride ourselves on growing a lot of our own food. Every year I set up a community garden for our neighbors. This year it's 200 feet long by 50 feet wide, and we've got corn and
mm.
winter squash and summer squash and tomatoes and brassicas and carrots and beets and potatoes and onions, and like the
It's like
list
a
goes
community
on.
garden. It's like a community garden.
Yeah,
You're saying, yeah.
yeah. I set it all up. I set it all up, add all the nutrients. We get our soil tested every year like you're supposed to. Take it to the, you know, take the soil to get it tested, and then take it to Concentrates Northwest, which is our local here in Portland. It's been around for 40, 50, even probably longer than that, selling organic inputs. And then you give them the test, and then they tell you what you need.
Mm,
So
that's cool.
we go to them, and we, you know, that's how, when you're growing at scale or even growing for your garden, the soil pH is correct and it's got all the micronutrients it needs to produce the best food possible, because food is medicine.
Mm.
And of course, me and my wife have both been medical patients for decades now. And we've got our little medical grow out here where we grow a couple different varieties.
What are you growing?
Um, her, we grow an amnesia haze cut, and we grow a, a godbud cross with purple Nepalese Kush, which is
Mm.
Jaeger.
Yeah,
And
good
these
stuff.
both come out of Southern Oregon from friends of mine. Um,
The Jaeger's so good. Mm.
yeah, yeah, it is. And
I could.
it's a happy weed. So the amnesia is like to get up and go daytime, stay alert, be able to work through things. And then, you know, the godbud cross wheat is our, like our nighttime afternoon calm down, feel good. Everybody really loves that one because it just
Mm.
makes you feel good, right? And
Yeah.
if you're feeling good, life's good. And we all just want to feel good. That's part of the reason we smoke cannabis and consume cannabis, because we want to feel good.
Yeah.
And it gives people a really euphoric, very good, stable, long lasting high. You're not, today's products are, you know, they're genetically, or they're not genetically, they're pheno hunted out to have certain qualities, right?
Mm. High
The
THC.
15, 20-minute high. So then you need more, and then you smoke more because then you're buying more. You
Mm.
know, I'm a traditionalist. I really like these older varietals that are out there
Yeah.
that, you know, you still get greasy ends at the end of the joint, and you still your high lasts for 2 to 3 hours and not just a half hour to 15 minutes. And we need to go back to where it isn't all about making money and making more money and consuming, on that type of consumption. I mean, this is where the whole industry's gotten railroaded out, is producing all these varieties of, and then they want certain attributes. Like I said, they want that short, really zoom high and then a down, and then you need to smoke again, because the more people smoke, the more money they're making.
I think all of that is a product of commercialization, is a product of us, of the plant coming out of the clandestine grow rooms and coming onto the market. I mean, of course, the people are going to want the quickest and the most. right? Of anything that they
Right.
buy. They want the quickest, the fastest, and the best, the highest quality, not necessarily the highest quality, but in this case, the highest potency, right? So they have the most effect for the money. And so the plants were bred for that, have been bred for that over the last, say, 30 or 40 years, right? Maybe 30 years. Um, have been bred for the quick sell. I mean, that
Right.
if you got something really high potency, or if it's purple, and you're able to grow it quickly, short plant in your basement, and you're able to get rid of it really quick because it's really high potency. People love it. You're going to sell it, and it's going to move. Um, there's so many different varieties of cannabis that don't fit that description, that were excluded from all of this because you weren't able to grow them in 60 days really quickly in your basement. They weren't super high potency, so people were kind of like, I don't want that. So the growers stopped growing those varieties and started growing the fast, high THC. So we've lost something in the last 30 years of development genetics. Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah. Definitely that's accurate, it's become, for me, it's really never been about selling cannabis. I've kind of taken the road less traveled when everybody else was saw legalization coming and were scrambling to make as much money as possible. I was out in front of it talking to news media, national media, whoever would listen to me, and normalizing cannabis. And so I like to get out in front of these things, and it's not about, for me, it's not about making money. It's about getting cannabis to a place like what Irvine Labs is doing now to create legitimate products out there that people will help people out. I mean, these were the original intents of Dennis Perone and Dale Rogers, and I'll get into my whole advocacy spiel here in a minute. But
Yep.
all these people that risked their lives to get to the plant to where it is today. I'm a huge advocate of small farmers and then advocates' rights. We put a lot of focus on prisoners getting out of jail, and rightfully so. They need so, but we really need to focus on all the advocates out there. So we have like Dale Rogers and Allison Bigelow and who else? Vivian McPeak and Carrie Boyder. And the list goes on of these advocates who their whole life was legalizing cannabis. And now that it's gone to where it is today, everybody's forgot about all the pioneers. Wherever we're at right now, people like me, and there's thousands of people like me who did their part to, in their own communities, to raise consciousness and to normalize cannabis, whether it started out in the back of a bar smoking joints with rednecks and wherever. We all did our part to get it where it is today. And I really think that we need to have some focus on the advocates out there, like Dale Rogers, guy's living on the streets. He was right there with Dennis Perone. He opened up medical dispensaries and things in Seattle before it was even a deal. Guys, like, we really need to put some focus on the advocates who paved the way, who built the infrastructure and the foundation for everything's built today. But they just wiped us out. It's like history, right? The pioneers come in, they build, they discover everything, they build everything. And then the settlers come in and they claim, we're the pioneers, we're the builders, we're the erectors, we've done all the work. Look how magnificent we are. They come in with their money and push the real heroes of the
Yeah.
green. You can check out my YouTube site where I've documented up to 50 different heroes, my personal heroes,
What's that site?
like
What's the
from
site?
Paul Sanford and uh, uh, a lot of different. All my cannabis heroes are on there.
How can viewers find that?
What now?
How can viewers find that?
Oh,
The
just go to YouTube and put Heroes of the Green in, and it'll come up.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I didn't mean
it's
to.
my YouTube channel. I started it a few years ago when, yeah, I turn some work down because, let's put it this way, I've got a conscience, and I was struggling to find out something to do. And I saw all of my heroes, all of the advocates who put time, sweat, and energy for no pay and no 401k and no anything, dedicate their lives to getting cannabis to where it is today, just being wished to the side, like
Mm,
they didn't exist or they weren't important,
mm,
and we try, like, these years aren't easy for even for me. I'd struggled. Last year we almost lost our farm.
mm,
I did like unthinkable things, like, I started a GoFundMe because
mm.
I was less than 30 days from completely losing my farm.
Yeah.
And, I went and knocked on every dispensary's door, every pot shop's door around. They go, "You've got the most amazing cannabis resume that we've ever seen, but no, we
Mm,
don't have a job for you." Now,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that they think that my brand or me as a person is going to outshine their whole company, or what their hesitation was. I want
It
to
seems that
really ask them, what's the problem? How come you couldn't, me, who has, like you say, from your own words, has the most amazing cannabis resume you've ever seen in their limited world here in Vancouver, Washington,
mm,
not to give me a job after we paved the way so you could even have a business? These things are like,
mm,
they eat at me.
mm,
And especially when I see Dale Rogers and Allison Bigelow and all my friends out there suffering, literally living on the streets, while these other people just cash in. And it's a race to the bottom.
mm.
I didn't jump into I-502 and get licenses. I could have, but
Yeah.
I thought I could have got licenses and sold them, but I thought it was cheating.
Mm,
I didn't want to take a shortcut. If I had to fight a little harder and work a little harder, and it's probably a huge mistake. I mean, I'm sure my family isn't happy that I didn't, because I see plenty of people that I knew bought licenses, sold them, and they're doing fine now, right?
mm.
Started
Uh,
up their dispensary and sold it out early and made a ton of money. Now they're relaxing somewhere. But I
but
kind of saw it as,
there are plenty that aren't too. There are plenty
oh
that
yeah,
didn't
no,
that lost
they're
everything.
crashing to the bottom. I
Yeah.
mean, I can look at all the people from the Washington State farmers markets that we used to go to, and there's only a couple of them out there
Yeah.
who've even semi made it.
Yeah. 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 We used to have that little medical market in Seattle, and I don't know if you ever went to that on the south side. But you could buy
Was
anything
it
there,
at White
seeds.
Center? Was it
Yep. At
Mike's?
White. Yeah. White Center.
At White Center? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I know Mike really well. He's opened up a cannabis cafe uh in Portland, but those
Yeah.
cafes, they're a tricky deal,
Mm.
because you can't sell cannabis there. And, in Portland, you couldn't sell food there either.
What can you
So, I
sell?
mean, the only way they're going to make it is if you've got, these rich guys
Mm,
out there, these actors who promote cannabis and who are
mm,
big cannabis advocates, um, out there sponsoring them, using their own money to keep it going.
yeah.
Otherwise, there's not much of a model out there. And I'm just kind of a warning to everybody. We've seen it happen time and time again,
Mm,
and they all fail because there's no money to be made.
yeah. Yeah. So, Farmer Tom, can you tell me a little bit about what the future holds for you and for Farmer Tom and the Farmer Tom brand? I know you were involved. There's a brand of rolling papers that was going to come out. Tell me what's going on with
Well,
Farmer Tom. What's
the rolling papers I use more just like my business card. I sponsor events. I work for a group. I'm not going to name any names. They couldn't pay me, but they said they would send me a pallet of rolling papers,
good?
custom made. And so they did. We went through, Dwayne and I, my old farmhand, went through 250 different types of papers. They held the patent on the cone technology on how to manufacture
Mm,
cones. So they had every paper in the world. And so we went through 250 of them. I told them we got down to the bare bones of what I liked, and they go, okay, we know what you like. So they sent me 7 different kinds. I picked through those, found the one that I like, because I'm not going to have a pallet full of rolling papers that, first of all, I'm not going to put anything with like my name on anything that isn't like legit, where people aren't going to come back and say, oh man, those were really good rolling papers. I like your rolling papers. So that, and then I've had to like segue out into medical devices. I'm a distributor for Beamer. It's a pulsating electromagnetic therapy bed it's 20 years old, more than that. It's the German engineered, Swiss made, and they have them all around the world. They use them in a majority of the ambulances in the EU. Finland has them in every hospital for quick recovery.
So it's like a band-aid
Hungary has
relate.
teaches it, and yeah, Hungary teaches it in their colleges. Pro athletes use it for recovery. I use it on the farm for recovery. I broke my ankle in 2001, and it was hard to get around. I started using the Beamer last year about this time. I was reintroduced to the Beamer, and with about ready to lose my farm and everything, I thought I was going to have a heart attack and a stroke any day. I started using it, and all those symptoms went away. And I'm able to work. I don't The next day, when you get older, if you work really hard, it's like 2 days later and you're feeling like, man, the earth, you were just got out of a brawl with Mike Tyson or something. And but this, it's quick recovery.
Yeah.
So it increases blood circulation, it oxygenates your blood, and it creates white blood cells.
Very
So
interesting.
I you can go to my I'll give you the websites later.
Yeah.
But also, I'm into carbon credits. So what we do is we go out and show hemp and cannabis farmers how they can make extra money on their farm through carbon credits. So I've been working on this project for like the last 6 months, and there's a whole lot of opportunity. And what's really great about it is, you're helping save the earth. At the same time, you're earning these carbon credits, which you can sell on the open market to big airlines who have huge amount of pollution they put on it. It's a carbon offset for the
Yeah.
amount of pollution they put on there. They buy these credits for people doing good things to sequester carbon, like through growing hemp and then turning it into biochar and then putting the biochar into the ground. All these things are worth money. So again, you can, go to farmertom.com, leave me a message. I could tell you about Beamer. I can tell you about uh, the carbon credit work that I'm doing. And also I can tell you about the work, what we're doing at Irvine Labs. We're in the development stage at Irvine Labs, and we're looking for investors. So if there's people out there who are looking to invest in a sustainable, honest, Schedule 1 bulk manufacturer, then we're it. I saw on the news today on one of these reports where it says it takes 800. I've heard 100 million to 800 million dollars to bring a product to market. Well, we can do it a fraction of that. Sean Land, the founder, who's been funding this by himself, he does compliance for hospital chains. So he works with the government all the time. And, he's always the smartest guy in the room. And I like to partner up with the smartest guys in the room. And
Always a good rule. Yeah. Always a good rule.
yeah, so if people are looking to bring products to market, get in touch with me at farmertom.com. Like, go to the comments. You can fill out your name and your phone number. And I'm always looking at them and what you're looking to do. If you want to invest in that, you can do that
Very cool.
also.
Very cool. Farmer Tom, it's been such a pleasure. We're running out of time now, but I wanted to thank you so much for not just for showing up here on our live, but for all the advocacy and work that you've done for the last 30 years now, going on 30 years. So thank you so much.
Oh, Michelle, thanks so much for having me on your show. And you do a lot of good work out there. One thing I want to say is as we move forward with government regulations, we got to hold on to medical grows and home grows with a death
Yes.
grip. We cannot let it go. Even if they, I'm a firm believer, even working with the Irvine Labs, I'm a firm believer, and I should be able to sell at my farm stand, along
Yeah.
with my tomatoes, bags of cannabis.
100%. Yeah.
And I believe that everybody has the right to take control of their own health and their own environment, like Paula and I do. We eat locally from my neighbors have chickens and my other neighbors have cows. The old lady with the blueberries down the street, my friend Greg, who grows the most amazing heirloom tomatoes. We grow tomatoes, but he really grows the best. Him at Northwest Organic Farm. That's the way to go. Support your local farmers, support your local communities, go to the farmers markets, and keep home grow and medical grow cannabis alive. We
Yes.
desperately need it.
Amen. Thank you so much, Farmer Tom. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and
Thanks,
have a great,
Michelle.
yeah, have a great weekend, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.